Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Dr. Joey interviews Christian business professionals just like you to discover their secrets for working faith positive in a negative world. Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett.
Hey, Faith Positive Nation, Dr. Joey Fawcett back with you again today for a great episode of Faith Positive Radio. Really appreciate you listening wherever you are in the world. And wherever you are in the world, I'm guessing that you know or have been yourself experienced with our topic for today. It's one that's pervasive, unfortunately. It's one that's affected just about every family I've ever known, and therefore every person who goes to work. And it's a topic that really cries out for a Christian response in today's world, a Jesus response, if I can put it that way, in today's world. And so today's author is going to help us walk through that, or today's guest is an author who's going to help us walk through how we can, at work, appropriately and sensitively respond to and be a friend to persons who are survivors of sexual assault. Now, you may be a survivor of sexual assault yourself. You may not be, but you may know someone who is. So please send a link to this podcast, because we've got some Jesus responses to how to get along in the world, how to get put back together by the Holy Spirit, and really how to live more transparently and with authenticity into who you are, to see yourself as a daughter or a son of the King, and to really claim your place in the world and make life fun again. So the name of the book is Broken Lenses, and Emily Bernath is the author. And Emily, thank you so much for being one of the most courageous people I've run into lately, who shares her story of being a sexual assault survivor. And as Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians, the first chapter, how our points of pain, our places of pain, become opportunities to minister to others. That's obviously something that God has gifted you to do. So Faith Positive Nation, help me welcome to Faith Positive Radio today, Emily Bernath. Emily, thank you so much for being on with us. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, man, it must take a ton of courage, like dump truck loads of courage, like lifetimes of courage, to tell the story of being a survivor of sexual assault.
Yeah, one could say I definitely never saw this as being my path for life. So
yeah, not exactly one you chose, right?
No, not at all. But here we are, and I'm grateful for the opportunities I've been given.
Sweet. So share your story with us. And I know you tell the story in your books. There are actually 2 Broken Lenses books, and these are devotional books that really help us claim our identity and are written particularly for sexual assault survivors. And in the book, you tell your story. So share your story with us as you can.
And the reason why I tell my story is, Christians will often use this term as like the day they were saved, right?
Right.
So that school, that happened pretty early on, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I had this fear of being alone, and someone told me that God was with me and that we're never alone, and so I was like, God, I need that, and he answered me that night. And so even though I had God in my life, I was never taught that I could have a relationship with God, really in a way that stuck. And so I kind of abandoned that part of my life for a while. And the night that I was raped was really the first night in years that I had cried out on God. I was not because I thought he was this, loving father, right? But really just because I was mad. And I was like, what the heck, God? What did I do to deserve this? But that for me was definitely the night that really caused me to turn my face back to him and acknowledge that he was still there. And it was a few months after that I made a friend who invited me to a college Christian organization and small group that she had led, and completely changed my life, because after that had happened, I saw myself as worthless, as gross, as, nobody's going to want to get to know me, or they're not going to see me as, a valuable person. That's a lot of what book 2 talks about, is seeing people's value. I didn't see that in myself. And it really took someone seeing a value in me that I couldn't see to really pursue a relationship with God. So I made it that commitment, if something really changes your life that much, how can you not want to do that for other people? And so that's kind of where my passion for women's ministry was born. I didn't really invest heavily in good relationships with other women before that, just because I didn't, sounds bad, I didn't feel like I needed to, but I didn't. And that's what I really wanted after that had happened. Not that I thought men were bad, or I didn't think all men were the worst or anything. I wanted a woman I could talk to, and I didn't feel like I had it. And once I found it, like I knew that there were a lot of other people who felt like I felt.
Yeah, well, you don't know what you don't know. So
that's where Broken Lenses was born. I wanted to lead a small group at my house of maybe like max 10 women. Right. It's turned into a lot more than that, but that's where it started.
Okay. So out of your pain came an opportunity. The amazing thing I just heard you say, one of the amazing things I heard you just say, Emily, was that you turned back to God. It was in anger, but you turned back to God. Yeah. And God received you still, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, he could take the anger. So often, I guess maybe I should be more confessional, and I have in the past. Maybe all of us as Christians trying to make it in the work world today, right? And trying to figure stuff out. We think we got to get our act together before we go to God, right?
Yeah.
Sanitize it. And, I can't tell God this because, I might be a sinner in the hands of an angry God. When actually nothing further could be from the truth, right? And truth's really important. So being able to turn to God, I don't see how you can read the Psalms and not figure out that you can turn to God in anger, because David does that a lot.
Does that all the time, yeah.
Yeah. So every other Psalm, he's ticked off at God about something. You said you were going to do this, and now you did this. So what's up with that? So I love your personal story of turning to God in anger, and that's what drew you back closer to God, because that loving Father just invited you deeper and deeper into a relationship, right?
Yeah.
So what was that like for you, turning to God in anger and then getting invited deeper into a relationship, feeling, I think you said, gross or dirty or unworthy? What was that like for you, chiseling away at that icy exterior that you put up?
Yeah. Well, at the time, I had lost a lot of friends really quickly, people who had been in my life. Just, I wasn't like super like out in social media and everything about it, but I also wasn't like quiet. I did share what happened with people and got faced with a lot of doubt. Like, why didn't you do this? Or why didn't you say that? Or, people just like, a lot of questions, I even did get told by someone that it was my fault. And so I chose to step away from a lot of people that I had associated with and had a lot of loss. And so just the fact that someone
loss, right?
Yeah.
You already had experienced the loss of the experience, right? And so people were blaming you either explicitly or implicitly.
Yeah. So the sheer fact that someone could want to take the time to even just hang out with me or invite me to go somewhere, like, blew my mind. And, I could tell that they saw something differently in me than I saw in myself, but that didn't like magically change the way that I viewed myself. Like, that took years, and it really took continually, like going to small group every week and learning more about God. Like, who is this God? And, what does he really see in me? And it really took it did. It took a couple of years until I realized that God didn't see my body in the way that I saw it. And it finally clicked one day. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. So somebody stepped into your world with you and said, hey, come go with me.
Right.
That's amazing. We never know how much a simple invitation can mean to someone else, can we, Emily?
Yeah.
Right. Because, I mean, that's what it sounds like, a simple invitation to you to come go to a small group, right?
Yeah.
So what was your first response when you got that invitation? Who, me?
Yeah. I mean, I had known of the group's existence beforehand. So, you know, I was pretty open to it. I said yes right away.
Okay. Now, was it a group? Was it just a general Bible study group, small group, or was it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. So what was it like going for you going to it that first time?
It was interesting. You know, I definitely didn't claim to know much of anything or, you know, be a star contributor to the group, right? Like,
right. Well, hey,
you're joking about all this stuff that I know. I definitely didn't claim to know much there, but
yeah, really.
You know, they were willing to just let me be a part of them, you know, which was powerful.
Yeah, I would imagine that first meeting, just getting in the room was a big deal for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes just trusting somebody was sent to you to invite you, right? And then stepping up into it. It's a big deal. And, you know, so often when we're in a small group or within a larger group even, like a church gathering or something like that, we get to set in our relationships and it's comfortable to us because we've done it for the first time. But man, when you step up into a small group or any kind of group for the very first time, especially if a bunch of folks claim to be Christians, it can be daunting, right?
Yeah.
So what made it easier for you? I mean, you said yes pretty quickly. You'd heard of the group, but what made it easier for you to say yes? Because you by your own admission, you were retreating.
I mean, they didn't pretend to be like they were, you know, perfect people either. I think that's part of what makes it a lot easier to relate. Like we all are just trying to figure out life, right? Like being honest with what we're going through and
keeping it real.
Yeah, that's what I try to do all the time. They'll call me a little too blunt at times, I think. Oh, well. And, you know, it was interesting that you said about taking action and saying yes right away because James is definitely tops on my favorite as far as scripture goes. And faith without action is dead. I fully believe that.
That's right. No working zombie for you, right? I mean,
no.
The working dead, right? No, you got to act on it. Show me your faith. I'll show you my works.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, that's where James is. Right. So it took you a couple of years to begin to lean into this new relationship with Christ. What would you say to somebody who may not be where you are in terms of being authentically themselves, being set free by the truth? What would you say to somebody who's struggling with that sense of understanding him or herself?
I mean, I think first knowing that it's like, it's okay wherever you are right now. Like you don't have to pretend. I don't know. Okay. I'm not good at pretending anyway. Like chalk up acting is another thing I can't do, but that's fine. Like I just like, I'm like, look, God, we're going to talk and this is how it's going to be, but he listens. It's, so, you know, and God understands the pain. Like, so, I mean, there's nothing that we've gone through that God can't empathize and relate with and guide us through. So, you know, realizing, going back to that first truth, what really brought me back to God in the first place of not being alone, like there's nothing you're alone in. It's one of the first truths spoken in the Bible. It's not good for man to be alone, right? Like God makes it very clear that we are not alone. You know, we weren't made to be alone, right?
So here comes Eve. Right. And both of them had such intense fellowship with God that, you know, God walks through the garden in the cool of the day and looking for fellowship with them. So that's pretty cool. So how can we as Christian business people, walk alongside of or best help someone who is a survivor of sexual assault?
That is kind of tough because it's not something people are just like gonna talk about at work, right?
Right, not a lot. Mm-mm.
But I think just knowing, what those people feel about themselves, right? Like, I know I'm not alone in feeling like worthless and nobody is gonna care, and So I think just even being people who are intentional of connecting with people, and it's through your actions you can speak a lot. Like, you don't have to physically tell them that you're a believer or whatever. It's really just living it out, and they'll notice. I noticed. It's they're not dumb, they'll notice.
Right. So what did you notice? Tell me a story about someone you noticed.
Oh gosh, which one? No. I mean, really, and I've had conversations with people, that I made friends with in that season, post, all of that happening. And they told me like, they could tell that I needed a friend. And, I think a lot of people, when they see someone like that, it takes something outside of yourself to want to, build a relationship in those circumstances. Yeah. And not everybody's willing to put forth that effort. So, yeah, I mean, I had people who were, meeting up with me every single week, one-on-one, spending time, really getting to know me deeper, and did that, like, expecting no return back from me, right? Like, because I didn't have anything to give. So,
right.
Yeah.
So just an unconditional love in that they moved beyond their own narcissism, right? And searching out what's good for me, and saw somebody who could use a friend.
Yes.
And so moving towards that person.
Friends.
To be a friend.
Friends are important. So important that it's a chapter in book 2. Be ready.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Really? I mean, so I'll talk about it for a little bit, I guess. But sure. I'm super passionate about. So, I mean, the whole theme of book 2 is really how to see others as God sees them. And Jesus says it himself in John 15, that there's no greater love than to lay down your life for your friend. And Jesus laid down his life for everyone. So if Jesus didn't want to be friends with everyone, he wouldn't have laid down his life for everyone. End of story.
Right. That's it.
And so, he didn't have these preconceived notions. I think so often in our world, we just look at someone like, and we just see them as our enemy for no good reason, really, most of the time. But like, for what purpose, right? Like, what good does that like
serves no purpose, right?
Right, exactly.
Certainly not a Jesus purpose.
Exactly. So I don't know, I think our world needs a big shift in that mentality of like what it means to be a friend and to see someone as someone who needs a friend, and all of that. So
what does it mean to be a friend?
You want me to pull out the book? I don't have it.
By the way, the second Broken Lenses book is a devotional book. It comes out like next week. You're watching this, so it comes out in March, and we've got links and things like that on Emily Bernath's page on our website at getpositive.today, or you can go to emilybernathauthor.com. Okay, so there's the shameless promotion. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about what it means to be a friend. How do I lay down my life for someone who needs a friend, especially when I discovered that he or she is a victim of a sexual assault?
I mean, really, you can't be friends with someone unless you recognize that they are a valuable human being. I mean, I'll just go back to that.
Sure, exactly.
It's like, and even as far as assault and stuff like that goes, like it really takes a devaluing of someone to be able to justify doing an experience like that to someone else. Like if we valued other people the way that God valued them, assault wouldn't exist in this world. It just wouldn't.
That's right.
Because you
That's
can't.
right.
And so, yeah, I'm very passionate about that.
Right. Well, sexual assault or any other type of assault, right?
Exactly.
If we saw each other the way God sees us,
Yes.
which I guess, first of all, let's start with seeing ourselves the way God sees us, right? Because then we become to really understand the radical nature of this unconditional love. And once I realize how much I'm loved, because I'm going to know more intimately what I deserve rather than what you deserve. So once I realize that God did that even for me, it gets a lot easier to do it for you. I can move beyond myself.
And a couple of the topics that are addressed in the second book too, as far as being a friend goes, is that of supporting someone and favoring them, like showing them favor.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
The Bible calls us to do favor? This is to what?
What does that mean to show someone favor? How do I do that?
Not in your human nature. That's how.
Yeah, because I'm back to narcissism, right? It's all about me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But like, really, how often do people in this world just not feel supported? Like, all the time. So even just, recognizing what they are doing and, that where they're at. And, I think, I don't know, it's easy to have like expectations or, standards that are not God's standards. And when it comes to human standards, we just don't meet them. Like that's, I think that's what a lot of people are, like they see this type of person that they are, easily friends with, and then they don't look outside of that because we don't fit those, whatever those boxes are that they're looking for in a friend.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I think Jesus had something to say about that, didn't he? When he said, what have you really done when you love the people who love you?
Exactly.
Anybody can do that, right? That's low-hanging fruit. But I say to you, love who?
Enemies.
Enemies, man. And pray for those.
And really the first part of that chapter is like, all of us have been enemies of God at some point. Like
every time.
And Jesus still died for us because he saw us as his friend, even when we saw him as our enemy. So
yeah, well, he looked beyond our initial response to him, right, into a gaping hole within us that's just crying out for fellowship with our Creator. And man, we sure stuffed that hole with a lot of ugly stuff, but he looked beyond all that. And so I guess the ultimate definition of a friend is laying down your life for someone, even when they don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. So tell us about the second book. It's available now, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, places like that, right?
Yep. Ebook comes out March 2nd and the paperback comes out June 8th. So. Okay.
All right. So you can get your digital copy next week if you're listening to this at the end of February. If not, maybe it's already there, right? Maybe it can be the paperback by the time you get around to listening to this. So your website is emilybernathauthor.com. What do we find when we go to your website, Emily?
Just a little bit more about me, my advocacy work. I have a couple of videos up there I've done and information on both of the books. And so I do some advocacy work with a nonprofit called Reveal to Heal International. So
nice.
That and yeah.
All right, super. So go to emilybernathauthor.com, or if you're walking your dog or something, you don't have, or you're hiking in the woods or whatever, and you don't have a place to write that down, just go to getpositive.today and search up in the top there for Emily Bernath, and take you right to her page on our website. And there are all the hyperlinks to go to her website, find the book, and all that great stuff. Emily, thank you so much for the amazing courage that you have to tell your story and for allowing the Holy Spirit to work through you to help others heal and to see themselves and understand themselves as who they truly are through the Father's eyes. I thank you, and I pray God's blessings on you. I want to ask you before we leave, though, because Faith Positive Nation always wants to know about a favorite Bible verse or Bible passage from our guests. So what you got?
For me, one of the founding verses of why I write is John 8:32, and it says that when you know the truth will set you free. And so really in each book, the book 1 is more personal truths, who am I? Book 2 is truths about how to see other people. But really it's how, when I see myself or when I see someone else in the way that God sees me or them, how do I be free from all the deception that's going on in this world? And yeah, I just want the people of this world to be free.
Man, being free is a beautiful thing. And you're helping set a lot of prisoners free. And I thank you for the excellent work that you're doing. Emily Bernath, go to emilybernathauthor.com and do so right now, and you can get set free too. Emily, thank you so much for the gift of your time and your wisdom and for sharing your story with us today. And pray God's blessings on you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Faith Positive Radio, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Suggest guests and ask questions when you email Dr. Joey at info@getpositive.today. And be sure to get your free gift of the 5 positive business conversations to have today coaching program at getpositive.today. Until next time, may God bless you with everything your heart can hope for and more than your mind can imagine.